Hello, this is a really big video that I have today that I put a lot of effort into, so I would really appreciate it if you stick around and see the whole journey of me trying to get a Paragon in Chimps mode. So, how this started is I did a video on getting to around 200 in Chimps because I had the idea in the back of my head to actually get a Paragon in Chimps from the start. So this was some footage of the first run. I have a bigger video on this, but it was really bad. I had a lot of towers that weren't really good, and kind of the big thing I was missing is temple. So the temple will give huge discounts if you get support, so that's what I went for first. This was my first setup to save up for temple, and it sucked because I underestimated how bad towers are when they're alone and they have no synergy. So this was my next thing that I used, and it worked a lot better. I did get the temple, but an issue that I had with this is that I completely overspent on sacrifices. So as you can see here, I got the temple and I got it super late. So I had to get a bunch of things that were a little unnecessary, like that mob glue and reactor early, which kind of made things a little bit more difficult. And I not only had lost money from having too much sacks, but also I did not really have a stable footing once I got it. So this is some of the footage of trying to save up for the temple. It was actually really difficult, especially because there were some pretty tricky rounds in the round 100 through 140. And another really annoying thing about these rounds is that they don't give any money. Like, the money that they give is super bad. So overspending like $15,000 on sacrifices, which I did, or even more than that, will make it so that you end up getting the temple way later on than you would. And now one thing that you notice that I should mention now is that the round goes to 300, and that's because I did this in challenge editor, because there's no way I'm going to start the screen before I die and click out every time I'm about to die. That's, if you want to do that, go ahead, but there's definitely no way I'm doing that, or I bet anybody else would do that. So that's that, and also none of the stats are changed. You'll see that later, I'll point to it, but one thing that I did change is that I ended up starting from round 100, and I gave myself enough cash to get Elite up to level 16, so that I could do a fair start and go straight into it. This is because it took a lot of times, or a lot of attempts, to find out a good and cheap way that can go straight into the temple. So because of that, I really did not have the patience to go from round 6 to 100 every time I wanted to try a new strategy that will get to the temple. So I ended up doing that just to save some time that I really did not have because of school. Now, some people might be wondering what sacks I'm doing, and my goal is to get 10,000 on primary, 50,000 on magic, and 25,000 on support. This is the most efficient temple that you can get that will do the best on damage, and it will also do the best on support, because the $25,000 extra for 50k threshold just for one extra damage isn't really worth it. So we do end up getting the temple, but because I overspent on the sacks, we get it extremely late, and I'm gonna have a lot of issues trying to afford the Master Bomber, which is the next tower I need to get. So the reason why I'm getting Master Bomber is because it not only does good damage, but I'm using it as my stun tower. DDTs get extremely fast, as well as COMGs, and there's a lot of them, and I don't want to spend any money on getting towers that stun or slow down, because we need to have all the damage focused on bats, which is going to be the issue. And Master Bomber, because we're going to be buffing it with Shinobis, actually has the power to stop everything, which might be surprising, but it actually does. So it's going to be a big lifesaver here, and it's going to do a lot of work, not only a lot of damage, but it will completely stop and stun everything, so that's why I need to rush it. In my second run, where I play things a little bit better, I'll end up getting Master Bomber way earlier. And also something that I do is I remember that you can't really rush Chinook because you don't have the money to get the Master Bomber then earlier. So I end up getting the discounts in the heli pilot after I get the Master Bomber, and then we can fill it up with Shinobis. So this run, I'm referring it to as the run that failed because it did fail. You'll see that later, but I'll just play it out and you can see how it went, and I'll go some music over and then I'll come back. Alright, so as you can see from the around 200 chimps video, I already have a significantly more amount of money just based on the round, and the temple also is doing a lot of damage. So right now I'm just saving up for the Grandmaster Ninja, and then once I get that, we'll be doing pretty good on damage. After that, the priorities are pretty simple. I have to get the total transformation, and in this run I didn't really remember, but you do have to get Plasma Monkey Fan Club up because it's a necessity, that's a hard word, for the Dark Paragon, but also it does really good damage, and that's going to be a funny thing that comes up at the end of the video that you'll see. But I also do a little mistake, and I think on this one I get Avatar of Wrath, and a lot of people might be saying, why don't you get Avatar of Wrath in Mad? And the thing is that they don't stack well with the buffs that we're doing. See, Avatar of Wrath and Mad have high damage and medium pierce, so that if you add more damage, which is going to be a big thing that the Total Transformation, Plasma Monkey Fan Club, and Grandmaster Ninja benefit off of, the percentage increase that they're going to get from those damage buffs are pretty low, like really, really low. And the Pierce buffs, they don't do that great with them. They'll get more damage, but it's not that great. So I end up not getting them because they really aren't worth it. And another thing that you'll see is that when I actually get the Paragon itself, it kind of sucks because it's not going to be getting buffs, and these buffs that we're getting are so crucial late game. So as I approach around 200, I actually stop recording because it gets too laggy to record, and this is where I end up finding my issue. I end up getting a lot more expensive towers, and I have to go all the way into around 250, which is an issue because as you can see from this graph, the new line is much higher, so ramping is much more current, and that was the setup that I had at around 258, I think it was, and the ramping just got too high, and I could not beat the balloons, but I did get very close. So this is my second attempt. I have a lot more fixed. I got the temple a lot more faster. I have a lot more rigid formations. I did not overspend on sacrifices, so I'm doing a lot better financially, and this is the moment. This is the round 247, which I end up affording it on the second time because I decided that because I can't fight the ramping, it's way too high, I have to get it before round 250, where the new ramping from version 29.0 sets in, so I don't really have to deal with that. and it ended up working out very well. I cut some towers like Ultra Boost and Glue Storm, saved more money on the sacks, saved more money on the discounts, and I ended up with some good luck having just enough money to buy it, and there it is. Now, it's gonna do pretty well, right?